In this video, we want to explain how to insert and format the bibliography section using Microsoft Word formatted to the Turabian 8 style. In a previous video, we explained that inserting footnotes. This video will use those same entries, but then recast those into a bibliography format for your Turabian 8 paper. So earlier we looked at how to do a bibliography for a book with a single author, or actually we looked at doing a footnote for a single author, a footnote for a single author book with an edition, as well as a journal article. And what I've done here is I've turned these around into the appropriate format. However, I've left the footnotes here so that we can see the appropriate footnote and then compare those with the bibliography that we'll make in just a minute. So let's begin with a bibliography for a book with a single author. Notice first that there's no number at the beginning. The bibliography is not numbered, it's not bulleted or anything. It begins simply with the author's last name first. So the last name, then a comma, and then the author's first name followed by a period. Then we have the title of the book and subtitle of the book, if appropriate, both in italics, separated then with another period. Unlike in the footnotes, we don't have a parentheses for the publication information. All of it is outside the parentheses. So we have the place of publication, then the colon, then the publisher's name, then our comma, and then the date of publication, ending with a period. Now, there would not be a footnote number here. That's just so we can look and see what we've done and how this is different. Same type thing for bibliography for a book with an edition, that is a second edition or a third edition. But notice here, again, author's last name, comma, first name, period. In italics, the title of the book, subtitle of the book, separated by the colon. Then there's a comma after the title of the book. Then we have the edition number, 2, 3, 4, or revised, if that's the case, followed by the abbreviation ED period for edition. So second edition would be 2 ED period. Then again, the place of publication, publisher's name, date of publication, ending with the period. And then again, here we have the bibliography for a journal article, the author's last name, comma, first name, period. Remember that articles are smaller within a larger work, and so they are put into quotation marks. Separate the subtitle, the title of the article from the actual title of the journal, and then remember to include the volume number and the issue number, date of publication. All this looks very similar to the footnote, except that the author's last name and first name are inverted. And again, actually for the journal, we would include the page range because we want to identify where in the article, in the journal, this particular article is found. So let's look down at an example. If we go here and we actually create a new bibliography page, remember it starts on its own page. We're going to entitle it Bibliography. We're going to then center this title. And then we're going to insert 2 single spaces and then start our first entry. So first entry, we'll do this just so you can see it. But we want this to begin at the left margin, so we're going to hit the left margin. Now the bibliography here, if you can't see this, there are 2 blank spaces. One way to check this is to turn on the paragraph marking show hide symbol. And there we see we have 1 space, 2 space, and notice there's no extra spacing there. These are not double spaces, but rather they're single spaces with no before space and no after space. This is the appropriate way. 2 single space lines and then our first entry. So let's do the first one for Aubrey Malphurs. So we would begin with the last name, Malphurs, comma, Aubrey, period. Let's take this off to be a little bit clearer. Then we're going to put in the title, Being Leaders, colon, subtitle, The Nature of Authentic Christian leadership. We're going to end that with a period. Then we're going to go back and make sure that our title of our book is in italics. So you check the I there. Then we're going to put our publication information, but remember, we're not going to put it in parentheses in the bibliography. So Grand Rapids, colon, Baker Books, comma, and then we have to insert the actual copyright date, usually on the back side of the title page. In this case, it's the year 2003. We end in a period. Now notice that we don't include page numbers because the reference to this book might be used 2 or 3 different times through various footnotes. All we're doing in the bibliography is showing them how to find the actual book. The footnote tells them exactly where to go. The bibliography just gives them the information for the book. Now, but notice that we don't have our indent. Did you see that earlier? See how each of these are indented? The second line kind of starts a ½ inch in. This is a special formatting that you need to do. So to show you how to do this, we simply highlight it. We go back to our paragraph spacing issues, just where we go all the time, line spacing options. But instead of going to special and selecting first line, like in a paragraph or in our footnote, here we're going to use hanging indent. This is going to put the extra indentation on the bottom line, if there is a bottom line. And the purpose of this is it makes the author's last name stand out. Now let's go ahead and do a couple others, and then we'll show you the other changes that need to be made. The second book in our series was Brian Chappell's book, Christ-Centered Preaching, colon, Redeeming the Expository Sermon, comma, because this is the one where we actually had an edition, and it was also by Grand Rapids. This was by Baker Academic. And then remember, this one had the 2 different copyright dates, but the second edition was done in 2005. That's the one we're going to list in our bibliography. And then all bibliography entries must end in a final period. So let's go back and fix our title. Highlight that. Hit the I. Make it italicized. Again, you can use the second, or you can just leave it with the number. Either way. ED period Grand Rapids Baker. All that looks good. Now let's go and do our third one, which was this article written by Sidney Greidanus. So last name Greidanus, comma, first name, period. Now this was an article, and because it's an article, we must put the article's title in quotation marks. So we're going to do quotation marks, Preaching Christ from the Old Testament. If we go back up to the top, we notice that this is now separated in the bibliography with a period. So we're going to do period, quotation mark. Then we put the journal name, then the volume number. Let's go back up here and look. Our volume number and issue number, then parentheses and the date of publication. So if we look at our issue here, we actually have, let's fix that. So we have the volume number and then the issue number and then our date. So let's go do that. 161, number 2, parentheses, January through March 2004. Again, this case we actually have to include the full range of the journal article. And that's it. Make this italicized because it's the larger book or journal. But then there's one more step that we need to do, actually 2 more steps. The bibliography needs to be listed from A at the top to Z at the bottom if we were to have all that. So let's make a quick fix. If we highlight all of this, we can actually go up here to the A to Z button and do an automatic sort. So if we click that, sort by paragraphs, type text, ascending, we hit OK. Notice that it's going to put chapel first, then Greidanus, and then Malthus. It's going to do all the alphabetizing on its own. That's great, but there's one more problem. The bibliography should be single space like this, but it should also have a space between each item. Now you can go through here and just enter a space, but then when you do your sort, what happens is it messes it all up. So we're actually going to take those away and do this a much easier way. So highlight the entire bibliography, go back to our line and paragraph spacing, go down to our line spacing options, and then we want to change the spacing after it to 12 point. If you remember in the footnote video, we did 10 point. That's because we were in a footnote, and footnotes are written in 10 point font. But the bibliography is in 12 point font, and so the spacing should be 12 points as well. So our special indentation is hanging, our spacing after is 12 point, but it's single space line spacing within. When we hit OK, that gives us our perfect bibliography. It's sorted A to Z. The last names are out first. It's single space within each entry, but then there's a line space between entry 1 and entry 2. And then don't forget, bibliography has 2 spaces between it and the first entry. That's it. That's the best way to do your bibliography using Microsoft Word. Really just a matter of getting used to it, and particularly knowing how to use the paragraph, line and paragraph spacing option. This is really a quick and easy tool if you'll learn to use it, and we encourage you to do so. Again, if you have questions, email us here at the college. Otherwise, go and make a great Turabian 8 bibliography page.